Welcome to EPISD at Home Distance Learning Algebra 2 with Mrs. Palmer. We are going to start Unit 6, Rational Functions. And the objective of the first lesson is to introduce you to rational expressions, learn how to determine when rational expressions are undefined, and how to find its domain. Let's get started. So our first lesson is Introduction to Rational Expressions. A rational expression is an example that can be written as the ratio of two polynomials. Here are some examples. So notice we have some fractions with different varying degrees of polynomials in both the numerator, the top of my fraction, and the denominator, the bottom of my fraction. An excluded value, is a number that makes the rational expression undefined. Remember, you cannot divide by 0. So anything that would make the bottoms, the denominators of these fractions be 0 would be considered an undefined or excluded value. Let's do some examples. Here in example 1, they're asking us to find the undefined terms. To do this, to find the undefined terms, I need to focus solely where the expression is undefined, and that would be in the denominator, in the bottom of my fraction. So let me go ahead and circle that for you. This is the part that I need to know when it's going to be 0. So I'm simply going to take my x minus 2, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. X minus 2 is already a factored polynomial, so I can just go ahead and do this. I'm simply going to add 2 to both sides. I'm solving just using my normal rules of solving. Canceling out, x equals 2. And so now what I can say is that when I plug 2 into the equation, 2 times 2 plus 3, and when I do 2 minus 2 on the bottom, I'm going to put this one in parentheses so you know that that's the one that I plugged into for the x right there. When I do the math in the numerator on the top, I get 7. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 3 makes 7. And 2 minus 2 in the denominator in the bottom gives me 0. This gives me what is undefined. So now I know my answer. My excluded value, let me write that down, is 2. The last thing that you're going to do in this first lesson is the domain. The domain of any expression is the set of all possible input values. And remember earlier we had learned that that means the x values. So the domain of a rational expression includes all real numbers except those that make the denominator, the bottom of our fraction, 0. That means our excluded values. So in the last example that I'm going to do for you today, it asks us to find the domain of this rational expression. Now the nice thing about this first lesson is everything's factored for you. So when you're asked to find the domain, it is all real values, but we have to do those excluded ones. And to do the excluded ones, once again, we're looking right down here in the denominator. It's funny how domain and denominator start with the same letter. That's how I remember it. So I'm going to go ahead and, since both of them are already an equation, really, I'm just going to set them equal to 0. And now I'm just going to go ahead and solve them both. I'm going to add 3 to cancel it out. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. So there's my first answer. 0 plus 3 is 3. And for this one, I'm going to subtract 4 to make this 0. What I do to one side, I do to the other. And there's my other answer. So my answer for my domain is all real numbers, because it is an expression, except 3 and -4. Now, if I wanted to write that shorthand, and what you're going to see in Khan Academy is x does not equal 3, comma, -4. Go ahead and try the exercises and the quick checks in the article, and we'll have another lesson tomorrow.